Yami Yugi. The fan-favorite protagonist of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, the Spirit of the Millennium puzzle was an ancient being bonded to the mind of a young man. Together, they dueled their way through thick and thin, rising through the ranks of the competitive Duel Monsters world until there was no one left for them to challenge but each other. More than a generation has passed since these two shared their adventures together, and the cards that they've used have spawned numerous retrains, archetypes, and expanded support over the years. So today, we're going to take a look at the cards that they might be using if their adventures took place in the modern day. So to start, there are a few classics that we're forced to include and could never skip out on, such as the Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl. No Yami Yugi deck profile would be complete without these. But we're also going to include some of the new members of the Magician family, such as the Magician of Dark Illusion and the Apprentice Illusion Magician. The Magician of Dark Illusion's name becomes Dark Magician when it's on the field, and its effect allows the user to special summon it, or the Dark Magician, by playing spell or trap cards at the correct time. Apprentice Illusion Magician can special summon itself, and when it's summoned, allows the user to add Dark Magician to the hand. It can also be sent to the graveyard to power up another Dark Spellcaster on your field that battles an opponent's monster. And to support the Magicians in this deck, we're going to give Yami Yugi Magician's Rod and Magician's Souls. Magician's Rod can be used to add Dark Magician's support spell and trap cards to the hand when it's summoned, and it can be retrieved from the graveyard for repeated use, while Magician's Souls can be used to add cards to the hand and send high-level spellcasters from the deck to the grave. It can also special summon itself, the Dark Magician, or Dark Magician Girl, depending on how it's used. Now back in the day, Yami Yugi used to run cards like Karibo, Gaia the Fierce Knight, Curse of Dragon, and Catapult Turtle. Well, all of these monsters have been retrained over the years, so we're going to be running Magic Karibo, Gaia the Magical Knight, Curse of Dragon Fire, and Artillery Catapult Turtle. Magic Karibo is another piece of Magician support, allowing the user to discard it when they take damage to special summon Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl. It can also be added from the graveyard back into the hand if a spellcaster monster on its field is destroyed. Gaia the Magical Knight is treated as though it were called Gaia the Fierce Knight, and it can be normal summoned without tributing if you control no monsters, or your opponent has stronger monsters than you already on their field. When it's summoned, it can be used to special summon a level 5 dragon monster, like Curse of Dragonfire, from the hand or the grave. Speaking of Curse of Dragonfire, it can destroy a field spell that's in use, and it can be used in place of polymerization to conduct a fusion summon once per turn. Artillery Catapult Turtle supports both of these monsters, allowing the user to tribute one monster to special summon Gaia or a level 5 dragon monster from the hand or deck once per turn. And returning from the old days is the fan favorite Buster Blader, a card best known for helping Yugi to win his first Egyptian god card, and which gains attack points for dragon monsters on the opponent's field. And he comes with two new support monsters, Buster Whelp of the Destruction Swordsman, and Buster Dragon Destruction Sword. These are both tuner monsters which can be used to facilitate synchro summoning in this deck. Also, Buster Whelp can be used to add Dragon Buster to the hand when it's summoned. It can also be tributed to special summon Buster Blader from the hand or grave, or it can be special summoned from the grave if you control Buster Blader and discard another Destruction Sword card. Dragon Buster, Destruction Sword, on the other hand, can equip itself to a Buster Blader you control to prevent the opponent from special summoning monsters from the extra deck. If it's equipped in this way, it can be unequipped by special summoning itself to the field. And that brings us to the new units. Yami Yugi embraces all forms of dueling and therefore needs a few cards to facilitate all the various summoning methods that the game has introduced since his day as the king of games. So first up we have Frequency Magician, another tuner monster. It gets a spell counter placed on it when it's summoned, which can be used to give another monster you control 500 attack points. Then we have a newer archetype that I've always imagined Yami Yugi using in more modern formats, the Endymions. A series of pendulum cards that include Magister of Endymion, Servant of Endymion, Reflection of Endymion, and Endymion, the Mighty Master of Magic. Magister, Servant, and Reflection of Endymion all work similarly, collecting spell counters when spell cards are activated while they're in the pendulum zone, and then using those spell counters to special summon themselves and additional monsters onto the field. On the field, Magister of Endymion collects spell counters when it declares an attack, and can remove spell counters to special summon another monster that uses spell counters from the deck. When it's destroyed, it can be sent to the pendulum zone instead of the extra deck. Servant of Endymion can attack directly when it has spell counters on it, and the player can discard one card to add a spell counter to every monster on the field that uses them. Like Magister, it can be placed in a pendulum zone when it's destroyed. And Reflection of Endymion can be used to return an enemy card and a card that you control with spell counters back to the hand. Any spell counters on your monster are added to this card instead. And when this monster is destroyed, you can add another Endymion card to your hand. And the Mighty Master of Magic's Pendulum effect lets you remove 6 spell counters from the field in order to special summon it, at which point it destroys cards on the field up to the same number of spell counters you still have on your side of the field, and adds the same number of counters to itself. When it's on the field, you can return a monster you control with spell counters to the hand in order to negate the activation of a spell or trap. When it has at least 1 spell counter, it can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects. Next up, we have some ritual monsters. Back in the day, Yami Yugi ran the Magician of Black Chaos and the Blackluster Soldier, which we'll replace with the more powerful Illusion of Chaos and Blackluster Soldier Legendary Swordsman. Both cards can be revealed from the hand to add support cards from the hand to the deck. Illusion of Chaos can return from the field to the hand to special summon Dark Magician from the grave, and negate an activated monster effect, while Legendary Swordsman prevents the opponent from using card effects during your battle phase. It can also shuffle all cards on the opponent's board back into their deck if it was ritual summoned using a normal type monster and destroys an enemy monster in battle. And that just leaves us with Yami Yugi's 2 signature legendary monsters, with those being Timaeus the United Dragon and the Egyptian god Slifer the Sky Dragon. This revision of the Eye of Timaeus can be special summoned by tributing a spell or trap that mentions Dark Magician from the hand or field. Once per turn, it lets you fusion summon a monster that requires a spellcaster without using polymerization. And Slifer the Sky Dragon's effects are pretty well known at this point. It gets 1,000 attack points for every card in the user's hand, and it reduces the attack of any monster summoned to the opponent's field by 2,000, destroying that monster if its attack points hit 0. Slifer can be special summoned, but goes to the graveyard at the end of the turn when it is. In the anime, Slifer's also immune to targeted effects and all traps, but that's a superpower not carried over into the trading card game. Whew. Moving on to spell cards. We've got some fusion monsters in the extra deck, so of course we're going to need a polymerization card. And similarly, with 2 Chaos Ritual monsters, we need the Chaos Form Ritual card. Pretty straightforward. Secrets of Dark Magic can be used to fusion or ritual summon monsters using Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl as materials. Destruction Swordsman fusion can be used to fusion summon a Buster Blader monster, and Super Soldier Synthesis is used to ritual summon a Blackluster Soldier monster from the hand or graveyard. Next, we've got 2 field cards, Magician Salvation and Gateway to Chaos. The first one lets you set an Eternal Soul Trap card directly from the deck, and lets you summon a Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl from the graveyard when you summon the other one to the field. And Gateway to Chaos lets you add a Blackluster Soldier or Gaia the Fierce Knight monster from the deck to the hand. Whenever a monster is sent from the field or hand to the grave, this card gets a spell counter, and it can remove 3 spell counters to add a ritual spell card from the deck to the hand. Next, we have some additional Dark Magician support in the form of Thousand Knives, Dark Magic Curtain, Dark Magical Circle, and Soul Servant. Thousand Knives can destroy 1 enemy monster when Yami Yugi controls Dark Magician. Dark Magic Curtain summons Dark Magician from the deck in exchange for half of your life points. Dark Magical Circle lets you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add one that lists Dark Magician to your hand if it's there, and then return the remaining cards to the top of the deck in any order. It also lets you banish a card your opponent controls if you summon Dark Magician while it's on the field. Soul Servant lets you put a Dark Magician card from your hand, deck, or graveyard on top of your deck. It can also be banished from the grave to add a card to your hand for each Dark Magician card with a different name that's currently on your field. Similarly, we've also got a piece of Endymion support with Spell Power Mastery, which lets you add an Endymion card from your deck to your hand. And last but not least, we've got to address the Pot of Greed in the room. This overpowered card was in just about everybody's deck back during Duel Monsters, but has earned itself a permanent spot on the ban list. So we'll replace it with Pot of Dichotomy, which is used to add 3 monsters of different types in the graveyard back into the deck and then draw 2 cards. The biggest downside is that you can't battle the same turn that you use it. Moving on to trap cards, we've got more Magician support in the form of Magician's Navigation, Magician's Combination, and Eternal Soul. Navigation is used to special summon Dark Magician from the hand and a level 7 or lower Dark Spellcaster from the deck. It can also be banished from the grave on the turn that it's sent there to negate an enemy spell or trap if you've got a Dark Magician on the field. Combination is used to negate a card effect by exchanging Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl with the other one in the graveyard. When this card is destroyed, you can also destroy another card on the field. Eternal Soul is a continuous trap card that protects Dark Magician from your opponent's card effects, but if it leaves the field, it destroys all monsters that you control. It also has 2 effects, one of which you can activate each turn. You can either special summon a Dark Magician from your hand or graveyard, Or you can add Dark Magic Attack, which is not in this profile, or 1,000 Knives, which is, from your deck to your hand. Spiral Reborn is used to summon a level 7 or lower dragon monster from the grave, and if that card is Gaia the Dragon Champion, the opponent cannot target or destroy it with card effects. And Prologue of the Destruction Swordsman is used to send a Destruction Sword and a Buster Blader monster from the deck to the grave in order to special summon Buster Dragon from the extra deck for 1 turn. This card can also be banished from the grave to protect Destruction Sword cards that you control from battle or card effects. And hey, that rounds out the main deck. Moving on to the side deck, we have some old familiars from back in the day, like the Summoned Skull and Monster Reborn. Both pretty self-explanatory. Then we have Old Reliable, King's Knight and Queen's Knight, which can be used on the field together to special summon Jack's Knight. But the poker family has gotten bigger since the old days, and will include Joker's Knight in the fun as well. This one, befitting its name, can send a King, Queen, or Jack's Knight from the deck to the grave in order to special summon itself with that other card's name. When it's in the grave, it can also be used to return another Light Warrior monster, like the other knights, to the deck, and it can add itself back to the hand. The face cards have also gotten some extra deck upgrades over the years, including Arcana Knight Joker and Arcana Extra Joker. Knight Joker is a fusion of Kings, Queens, and Jacks Knights that packs a huge punch. Extra Joker is a Link monster who requires 3 warriors of different names to be summoned. Both monsters can negate a card effect that's targeting them by discarding the same type of card from the hand. When Extra Joker is destroyed by battle, you can summon a level 4 warrior monster from the deck and add another one from the deck to the hand. Joker Straight discards a card to special summon Queen's Knight from the deck, add King or Jack's Knight from the deck to the hand, and summon a normal monster. Only Light Warrior monsters can be summoned from the extra deck for the rest of the turn when you use this card. Joker's Wild lets you send a spell card that lists Kings, Queen, and Jack's Knights from the deck to the grave in order to give itself that spell card's effect. Both of these cards can be activated in the grave and add themselves back into the hand and shuffle a Light Warrior monster back into the deck. Court of Cards is used to summon one of the main knights from the hand or the graveyard if you don't control any monsters, or only control one of the other knights. You can also banish one of each knight from the grave in order to draw the same number of cards. And last, the side deck does have some divine support for Slifer the Sky Dragon, including Thunderspeed Summon, Thunder Force Attack, the Revived Sky God, and Ultimate Divine Beast. Thunderspeed Summon weirdly overlaps with the face card knights. It can be used to summon a level 10 monster, or if you control the 3 main knight monsters, it can add Slifer from the deck to the hand and then summon it. Thunder Force Attack cannot be negated. If you control Slifer, this card lets you destroy all of your opponent's face-up monsters. As a bonus, if it's activated during the main phase, you can draw cards equal to the number of monsters that were destroyed. You can only attack with one monster the turn that this card was activated, but let's face it, it's probably going to be Slifer. The Revived Sky God can't be negated either. It lets you summon Slifer from the grave, and then both players add 6 cards to their hand, making Slifer as powerful as possible. This card can also be banished from the grave to add Monster Reborn to the top of your deck, and if Slifer is already in the grave, you can draw that Monster Reborn card right away. And finally, Ultimate Divine Beast allows you to discard a spell or trap card in order to special summon a Divine Beast monster that's in the grave in defense mode when your opponent declares an attack. The attacking monster is now forced to target the Divine Beast monster instead of the original target. During the end phase, if you control a Divine Beast card, any enemy cards that activated their effects that turn are destroyed. And now for everybody's favorite part, the extra deck. What kind of crazy monsters are we giving to Yugi this time? Well, his Dark Magician confused with quite a few other monsters these days, so we'll start with the Dark Magicians, Master of Chaos, and Dark Cavalry. The Dark Magicians is summoned by fusing Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl with another spellcaster, though probably each other based on the card art. When a spell or trap is activated, its user can draw a card, and if it's a spell or trap, put it on the field. Spells must be set while quick play spells and traps can be activated immediately. When this card is destroyed, you can special summon both Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl from the hand, deck, or grave. Master of Chaos is summoned by fusing Dark Magician with a Chaos or Blackluster Soldier ritual monster. When it's fusion summoned, the owner can special summon a light or dark monster in the grave. It can also tribute a light or dark monster to banish all monsters the opponent controls. When this card is destroyed, you can add a spell from the grave to the hand. And Dark Cavalry is summoned by fusing Dark Magician with a warrior monster, though the card art does suggest that that monster would be Gaia the Fierce Knight. It gains 100 attack points for every spell or trap on the field or in the grave, it inflicts piercing damage, and when a targeting effect is activated, it lets its user discard a card to negate and destroy that targeting effect card. We also have the two Dragon Knights, Dark Magician the Dragon Knight and Dark Magician Girl the Dragon Knight, which are summoned by fusing their respective magicians with a dragon-type monster, Timaeus, based on the card art and lore from the anime. Dark Magician the Dragon Knight's name becomes Dark Magician while it's on the field, and your opponent cannot target or destroy your spell or trap cards with card effects while it's on the field. Dark Magician Girl the Dragon Knight can be used to destroy a face-up card on the field by discarding one card from your hand. Gaia the Magical Knight of Dragons is treated like Gaia the Dragon Champion while it's on the field, and it's summoned by fusing Gaia with a level 5 dragon monster. It can give up 2,600 attack points to destroy another card on the field, but it gains 2,600 attack points when it destroys an enemy monster by battle. Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman, is summoned by fusing Buster Blader with a dragon. It can't attack directly, but it gains 1,000 points for every dragon on the opponent's field or graveyard. All enemy dragons are forced into defense position and cannot activate their effects. And best of all, it inflicts piercing damage when it battles a defense monster. So it's like Buster Blader on steroids with Dragon Capture Jar's effect built in. That brings us to the one synchro monster in this deck, Buster Dragon. This pairs nicely with a Buster Blader, as it turns all enemy monsters on the field into dragon types, and if there are no Buster Blader monsters on the field, it lets you summon one from your grave, and once per turn, it can be used to equip a Destruction Sword monster in the grave to a Buster Blader. Next, we've got some Xyz monsters, like Ebon High Magician and Ebon Illusion Magician. High Magician is a rank 7 Xyz monster that can be used to activate quick play or trap cards from the hand during your opponent's turn. When this card is destroyed, you can special summon a Dark Spellcaster from the hand or deck and then destroy one card on the field. Ebon Illusion Magician is also rank 7, and can be used to special summon a normal Dark Spellcaster monster from the hand or deck. When a spellcaster you control declares an attack, this card can target one enemy card and banish it. Our last Xyz card is Archfiend's Ascent, a rank 6 Summoned Skull monster. Its name is Summoned Skull while it's on the field, and it can protect a card you control from being destroyed by detaching an Xyz material. When it's destroyed, it can be used to special summon Summoned Skull from the hand, deck, or grave. And that brings us to Yami Yugi's Link monsters. Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos, Daybreaker, the Shining Magical Warrior, Protector Whelp of the Destruction Swordsman, and Selene, Queen of the Master Magicians. Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos, is a Link 3 monster that requires 3 different monsters to summon. If a level 7 or higher monster was used as its material, it can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects. When it destroys an enemy monster by battle, it can activate one of 3 effects, raising its attack points by 1,500, banishing one card on the field, or making a second attack that turn. Daybreaker is a Link 2 monster that requires 2 spellcasters as material. It gets 1 spell counter when it's summoned, and gains 300 points for each spell counter on it. It also gets an extra spell counter for each spellcaster that's summoned to a zone that it points to, and it can remove 2 spell counters to destroy 1 card on the field. Protector Whelp of the Destruction Swordsman is a Link 2 monster that can send a Destruction Sword card from the deck to the grave in order to special summon Buster Blader from the hand. If your opponent doesn't control any monsters and you have a Buster Blader who didn't attack, you can inflict its attack points as damage to your opponent. It's sort of a direct attack free action, but without actually attacking. And Selene, Queen of the Master Magicians, gets a spell counter for each spell on the field or grave when she's summoned. This card can't be attacked when there's an Endymion monster on the field. It can also remove 3 spell counters from the field, not just itself, but from the entire field, in order to special summon a spellcaster from your hand or grave in defense position in a zone that it points to. And that, ladies and gentlemen, are the modern cards I'd like to see Yami Yugi use if he were still dueling today. But there are a few honorable mentions who didn't make it into the deck that are worth mentioning. Cards like Archfiend Black Skull Dragon, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, and Dragon Master Magia, all of whom require cards that would be in Yugi's friends' decks in order for him to bring them out onto the field. I also really wanted to include Magi Star Magician Gal, who is an Xyz Dark Magician Girl card that was drawn by series creator Kazuki Takahashi. Unfortunately, Kaz refused to censor this card's religious symbols and lady lumps before he died, so this card has never been localized for the TCG and remains a Japanese language exclusive. Still, I have no doubt that Yugi would use this card if he could. And of course, there are tons of other cards related to archetypes Yami Yugi ran back in the day. So what do you think about the cards in this deck profile? Are these the sort of cards you think our hero would use today, or are there other cards that you'd prefer to see instead? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe bell thing if you want to see more modern deck profiles in the future. You can also find this deck profile available on YGO Pro down below in the description. A huge shout out to Wham Bam Duel for helping me create this profile. You can find a link to his channel also below in the description. We will be hard at work putting together next week's modern Jaden Yugi deck profile, so again, do the subscribe thing if you want to see that, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye!